Let's be honest, these days we quite literally live in filth. No, I'm not kidding either. If you live in a bustling city, I'm pretty sure you're inhaling unseen toxic fumes while enjoying that delicious morning coffee. Oh, but hey, be thankful you don't live in any of these places we're about to show you, which are 10 of the most toxic places on Earth. Number 1 surprised me a lot, so make sure you watch that till the end. Number 10. The Niger River Delta. The Niger Delta, a fan-shaped area with a landmass of approximately 70,000 kilometers, is located in the southern part of Nigeria and consists of 2 rivers, the Benue River and the Niger River, that ultimately drain into the Atlantic. According to a report by Blacksmith Institute and Green Cross, an average of 240,000 barrels of crude oil are spilled in the Niger River Delta in Nigeria every year. The oil spills not only contaminated the delta's surface and groundwater with heavy metal, not the kind that you could rock to, but it's also contaminated the ambient air and locally grown crops with hydrocarbons. This includes known carcinogens such as polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. And trust me, you don't want to breathe in any of those substances, much less eat them with your salad. These spills gravely affect the environment and the health of the population. A 2013 article published in the Nigerian Medical Journal estimated that the widespread pollution could lead to a reduction in household food security by 60% and a 24% increase of childhood malnutrition. Number 9. The Matanza Riachuelo. Argentina's Matanza Riachuelo River is considered the most important waterway in Buenos Aires. However, an estimated 15,000 industries are actively releasing waste into the river, making it unsuitable for human habitation. Despite this, about 60% of the approximately 20,000 people living in the area reside in the most unsuitable conditions. This is also with no sewage system or access to potable water along the banks of the river. Pollutants in the Matanza River vary greatly. A study published in the Latin American Journal of Sedimentology and based on analysis in 2008 revealed that the soil on the banks of the river contained levels of zinc, lead, copper, nickel, and total chromium that were all above recommended levels. A study in 2013 revealed that 80% of the wells near the river basin are unsafe for drinking. This is due to high contamination levels by heavy metals, which leads to gastrointestinal diseases, respiratory diseases, and cancer, among others. Number 8. Kalimantan, Indonesia. Gold is a very precious metal which is often related to riches and luxury. No one really thinks about its links to one of the most toxic substances on Earth. In Central and South Kalimantan, some 43,000 people make a living as illegal small-scale gold miners, and that is exactly the reason why this place is one of the most toxic places on Earth. The miners use mercury in their rudimentary smelting process, releasing as much as 1,000 tons of the toxic chemicals into the air each year. Even worse, many miners smelt inside their own homes, where the mercury vapor is trapped. The metal can also be released into area waterways, where it can accumulate in fish and water. A 2008 study found concentrations of mercury in the Kabwe River in central Kalimantan of 2,260 liters. That's more than twice Indonesia's recommended standard of 1,000 a liter. In recent years, however, the Indonesian government has taken steps to limit man-made mercury emissions, working with miners to make their smelting process safer. Number 7. Kabwe, Zambia. Kabwe is often considered by pollution experts as the world's most toxic town, and with good reason. This is a place where mass lead poisoning has almost certainly damaged the brains and other organs of generations of children, and where children continue to be poisoned every single day. Lead blood concentrations in Kabwe have been found at levels 60% higher than the amount considered fatal, and the biggest victims are the children, whose brains and other organs are particularly sensitive. In a recent study conducted by a team of researchers from Zambia and Japan, all 246 children tested were above the safety limit of 5 micrograms per deciliter of blood. The vast majority was over 45 micrograms per deciliter, which causes brain, liver, and hearing damage. And 8 of them were over 150 micrograms per deciliter, at which point death is the most likely outcome. The culprit is almost a century of unregulated mining for lead and zinc, which started in 1902 when the deposits were first discovered. It only ended in 1994 when the mine, which was government-owned, finally closed. Unfortunately, the damage has already been done, and even now decades later, the residents are still feeling its effects. Number 6. Hazaribagh, Bangladesh. There are 270 registered tanneries in Bangladesh, and around 90 to 95% are located at Hazaribagh on about 25 hectares of land. Most of these tanneries use old, outdated, and inefficient processing methods. However, the tanneries employ anywhere between 8,000 and 12,000 people, making it a vital part of the region's economy. The sad thing is that every day the tanneries collectively dump 22,000 cubic liters of toxic waste. This includes cancer-causing hexavalent chromium, and they dump it directly into the Buriganga, Dhaka's main river and a key water supply for the area. Also, informal leather recyclers regularly burn scraps of leather to produce a number of consumer products, which also heavily pollute the air. The homes of tannery workers in this area are built next to contaminated streams, ponds, and canals, making them at risk of cancer and a myriad of other problems such as acid burns, rashes, aches, dizziness, and nausea. The sadder thing is, it still could have been prevented through modernization. Number 5. Dzerzhinsk, Russia. Until the end of the Cold War, Dzerzhinsk was among Russia's principal production sites of chemical weapons. Today, Dzerzhinsk is still a significant center of Russian chemical manufacturing. The city was also home to a leaded gasoline factory that produced TEL, a very potent toxin. However, little attention was paid to the impacts of all this production. According to the figures from the Environmental Agency, almost 300,000 tons of chemical waste were improperly disposed between 1930 and 1998. In this waste, around 190 identified chemicals have been released into the groundwater. In some places, the chemicals have turned the water into a white sludge containing dioxins and high levels of phenol. Phenol is an industrial chemical that can lead to acute poisoning and death. These levels are reportedly 17 million times the safe limit. Because of this, the Guinness Book of World Records has named Dzerzhinsk as the most chemically polluted city in the world. A quarter of the city's 300,000 residents are still employed in factories that produce toxic chemicals. According to a 2003 BBC report, it is the young who are the most vulnerable. In the local cemetery, there are a shocking number of graves of people below the age of 40. And if that wasn't enough, the death rate was reported to exceed the birth rate by 260%. Number 4. Citarum River, Indonesia. Spanning nearly 300 kilometers, Citarum River is the longest river in Indonesia's most populous province. It also supplies the provincial capital of Bandung as well as the country's capital, Jakarta, with piped water. The water is used to sustain fish farms, irrigate 400,000 hectares of paddy fields, and fill reservoirs that generate about 2 gigawatts of hydropower, making it one of Indonesia's most strategic river basins. That is despite the fact that the river is often called the world's most polluted river. The river provides 80% of Jakarta's water supply, irrigates farms that supply 5% of the country's rice, and is a source of water for upwards of 2,000 factories, hence affecting as many as 5 million people. To illustrate just how dirty the Citarum River is, at some places we can't even see the water. Its surface is completely covered by the unimaginable amount of waste, trash, and dead animals floating on the putrid water. However, if we are lucky enough to glimpse the water, we're going to see its color due to the excessive amount of toxic chemicals being dumped into the river by industries. Not surprisingly, since 2008, nearly 60% of the river's fish species have been destroyed. Because people have been depending on this heavily polluted water, many now suffer from various skin diseases. This ranges from scabies to infections, not to mention respiratory distress due to inhaling factory smoke. In addition, poor water quality due to waste and pollution also damages the crops of farmers. Number 3. Chernobyl, Ukraine. Going into researching for this video, I was pretty sure that Chernobyl would top this list. However, it turned out that I was wrong, and there are even more toxic places on Earth. For those of you not in the know, Chernobyl was the site of a nuclear accident that left the city abandoned, bereft of all people, turning it into an abandoned radioactive ghost town. The events of April 25th and the 26th, 1986 are now well documented, despite the Cold War-era secrecy of the then Soviet Union. A safety test went wrong, leading to an explosion that blew up part of reactor number 4, and a fire that burned for more than a week. A cloud of radiation was released into the atmosphere that spread first across a local area, and eventually over large parts of Europe. It's estimated that the amount of radioactive material was 400 times more than the atom bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Today, the nuclear reactor lies encased in a containment shield, keeping most of the radioactive elements inside, but the surrounding areas still have unusually high levels of radiation. However, some parts of Chernobyl have been recently opened for tourists, so if you dare, you can visit this very creepy abandoned town. Now it's time for the day's best pick. Today's best pick shows us what seems to be a pool filled with a lime green sludge. It looks pretty toxic, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Toxic Avenger suddenly jumped out from it. But is there really such a place? And what is that green slime? Well, let's find out next with number 2. Chaohu Lake, China. Green may be associated with health in other parts of the world, but for China's Chaohu Lake, it signifies death. This unfortunate association is a result of unstoppable invasion of the lake by blue-green algae. In small quantities, the algae is perfectly safe. However, it thrives in polluted environments. Owing to industrialization and urbanization of the Hefei area, the lake is filled with sewage and other pollutants. This makes it one of the most polluted bodies of water in China. The algae has bloomed in the toxic environment of the water, appearing every spring and summer. The algae itself isn't toxic, but that's not saying that it's completely harmless. The life cycle of the algae is such that oxygen and nutrients are depleted from the water as it grows, killing off other plants and animals. As the algae rapidly expands, it also starves itself of resources and dies, releasing even more toxins. People that have to swim or swallow the water could also experience skin rashes, eye irritation, vomiting, diarrhea, fever, and muscle and joint pains as well. Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on guys, what's up with that? Can you guys please hit the subscribe button? You guys watch my videos every day anyway, so you might as well subscribe and keep up to date with every video we put out. Number 1. Agbogbloshie, Ghana. Agbogbloshie in Accra, Ghana is the second largest electronic waste or e-waste processing area in West Africa. E-waste, such as discarded electronics, include refrigerators, microwaves, and televisions, and they all lay around in this waste dump. Every year, Ghana imports around 215,000 tons of secondhand consumer electronics, primarily from Western Europe, and generates another 129,000 tons of e-waste annually. Up to 10,000 workers wade through tons of discarded goods as part of an enormous, informal recycling process, in what has become one of the world's largest destinations for used electronic goods. From soil samples, experts have estimated lead levels in the area to be as high as 18,125 parts per million. In the US, the Environmental Protection Agency standard for lead in soil is only 400 parts per million. Burns, back problems, and infected wounds are common ailments among these workers, as well as respiratory problems, chronic nausea, and debilitating headaches, brought on by the hazardous working environment and toxic pollution. Do you know of any toxic places? Let us know in the comment section down below, but please don't say your office. Also, check out any of our amazing videos you see on your screen. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Later, everybody.